Hello, and welcome to the Josh Sweeney Podcast. I am your host, Josh Sweeney, and joining us on this episode is Dan Tunn. Dan, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I'm excited to be here.
No problem. So, Dan, for those of you that don't know, is a three-time Ironman finisher. He did the Great Illini Challenge Tri back in 2008, Ironman Louisville in 2009, took a considerable amount of time off, did the Ironman Wisconsin in 2017. He is also a Lululemon Ambassador for Chicago. So if you live in Chicago, I've been there, and he's got his face all over the place, which is really cool. He recently qualified for the Boston Marathon at the 2019 Chicago Marathon, which was also really neat. But even cooler than all those, I think, is he co-founded a nonprofit organization called Dare to Try that helps individuals get into triathlon that are disabled. And we'll touch on that some more at some point during this podcast. But Dan, how have things been going? Because I know you're getting ready for Boston Marathon, and with the new year, I mean, do you have all kinds of new resolutions or anything going on?
It's been a nice little break since the Chicago Marathon. I know it was a long year, kind of leading into that. Just a lot of heavy training and coming off of an injury, and luckily had a good year. But the break was nice, and fortunately, I actually have another year before I can run Boston, because the Chicago Marathon falls like right outside the qualifying period for 2020. So get to run it in 2021. So this year I get to kind of try some new things, take a little break from the road. I think I'm gonna jump into some ultra marathons, kind of explore trail running a little bit more, and push myself for like the longer distance, so a little bit past the 26.2 miles. So it'll be interesting. It'll be like uncharted territory, but I'm really looking forward to just kind of taking a break from the road and running on trails and kind of escaping a little bit.
Yeah, because that's got to be hard on all the joints running on the road all the time. And so, when is the Boston Marathon?
So the Boston Marathon. So this year it's on Patriots Day. So I believe it's in April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty.
Falls,
Man, that's crazy though. So you just finished Chicago Marathon, qualified for Boston, but you didn't qualify for 2020 Boston. You qualified for 2021.
right.
I didn't know that's
Correct.
how it worked. That's so. I mean that it's almost kind of torture mentally, right?
It's tough because you do all the training and you finally hit the mark. I mean, it's taken me quite a few years to finally hit it. And then because it's literally like just a few weeks outside of the qualifying period for 2020, it's like 2 or 3 weeks past it. So you got to sit out an entire year, which could be tough, but it's also a nice. It could be a nice little break. You could explore a few other things and then kind of get back into it. The end of towards the end of 2020, and start ramping up for Boston training.
Ultra marathons are cool. Are you going to do any of those with Adam Pop?
I don't know if I could keep up with Adam Pop, to tell you the truth. He's a veteran when it comes to the ultra distance, but Adam, great guy, another Dare to Try athlete, and he's actually one of the people that I've been kind of just watching, either on social media or talk to him in person about ultras and trail running, and there's a different culture I think that comes with that community, and I feel like it's a little bit more laid back than the marathon, like the road racing stuff, which is nice if I'm looking to take a little bit of a break and not put so much pressure on myself. And it's nice when the community is like that. It's a little bit more laid back, and when you start getting to to the higher mileage, it's about completing the race and just getting through it. So you're looking for a community and friends and crews to kind of help you kind of reach those goals. So yeah, so looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to Adam for for more advice throughout the year.
Yeah. So let's get back a little. I want to do a little background on you first to figure out how you got into all this and I guess to where you are today. So you're from Chicago?
Yeah, born and raised on the north side of Chicago, neighborhood called Avondale. Yeah, pretty much spent my entire life here on the north side. And yeah, I went away to school for a little bit to U of I, and then ended up coming back here. But yeah, pretty much spent all of my life here in Chicago.
Yeah, and didn't you used to play hockey, right?
Yeah, yeah. So hockey was, yeah, hockey was the sport that I grew up playing. I think I was on skates when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and yeah, and that was my sport, like all throughout high school and into college a little bit too. That a little bit of volleyball, but yeah, hockey was the main sport for most of my life.
Yeah, I remember. So the first time I met Dan was in Chicago at what's that rink that's like got four, it's like a big rink. It's like a super rink, but it's on the outskirts of Chicago where it's got like four rinks.
Yeah, I think it was the Leaf Center.
Yeah, the Leaf Center. Well, that's okay. I'm sure I met you before that, but I vividly remember talking to you in the Leaf Center and saying hello. For whatever reason, that's like the first time I really remember engaging with you. But and and then it was funny because we like didn't really talk ever, and I mean we kind of did, but not really. And then once I started doing triathlons, I remembered that you had started a nonprofit and hit you up, and then we talked a lot more since then. But I always thought that
Right.
was cool. So how did you? So when we met in the Leaf Center, it was because you were there working with the sled hockey, the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago sled hockey team, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so, how
Yeah.
did you get
So
involved with them?
yeah, yeah. So I prior to starting Dare to Try, I was working for the Chicago Park District, and that was after another career change as I was a middle school math teacher before that. But yeah, I kind of fell in love with adaptive sports through volunteering when I was a teacher and had summers off, and was just volunteering and was introduced to adaptive sports, particularly sled hockey, which was, I'd never seen it before, but was obviously familiar with the sport of hockey just from growing up and playing it, and just thought it was so cool. I mean, it was still hockey, just with different equipment,
Yeah,
and people with different disabilities and abilities, like still being able to play and all the same rules and same hard hitting hockey that I had grown up to know. So yes, it was eventually started working for the Chicago Park District as an adaptive sports coordinator, and through that we had a partnership with was formerly known as the Rehab Institute of Chicago, now Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and they partner with the Chicago Blackhawks here, and yeah, I was able to help coach their sled hockey team, and that's how I got to know you, playing through the Midwest Sled Hockey League, and um, yeah, it was awesome experience. It really taught me a lot about more about the sport in general and just getting people with disabilities involved and active.
yeah. I think it's funny how when you hear about sled hockey, you kind of think of disabled people playing it, but then when you go and watch, like I think all the disability stuff that comes along with just playing sled hockey already, because you have to be disabled to play sled hockey or whatever. I think that kind of goes out the window when you start watching these games and you just totally forget. At least that's how it was for me. Like I remember before I started playing, they were they'd be like, "Oh, you should come try sled hockey." And I had recently been injured, and I was like, "Meh, I don't know. I don't, it's probably not the same. This and that, blah blah blah." I'm making excuses, and then I went out there, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." Like I went out to watch. I didn't get on the ice the first time I saw it. I just went out to watch a
Right.
game, and I don't remember who the Rampage, San Antonio Rampage sled hockey team was playing somebody, but yeah, and so it was just I just think it's so funny how that just goes out the window as soon as you start watching these guys, and it changes in your mind to like, whoa, this is legit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I mean, when I was out there, I mean, I would when I coach and be on the ice with the players. I mean, I was in my traditional skates and playing as an upright, able-bodied player, but I'd skate up and down the ice with the players and sleds, passing, and I'm skating full speed, and we're flowing up and down the ice just like I would, when I'm playing with, some of my buddies, whether it's a men's league game. So it's different in the sense that, yeah, so hockey players are using different equipment, but we're moving just the same as any hockey player would, and that's what's awesome. It feels like an inclusive sport. It doesn't feel any different um, necessarily than when I'd go out and skate, with all upright players. So
Yeah.
and that's what I love about it. It's still the game of hockey.
And so you were a teacher before then? I don't even think I knew this, or maybe I knew this, but I totally just was like, whatever, and threw it out of my brain. Uh,
Yeah, right.
so how did you get into teaching, or what did you graduate college with?
Yeah. So it took a kind of a windy path to get where I am today, but yeah, my undergrad is in finance and information systems. So I had like a business undergrad, worked a couple years in the field of business, didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to. So went back to school and went back and got my master's in secondary education. So and I transitioned into teaching middle school mathematics. So did that for a couple years in the suburbs for some private schools, and then um, switched over to Chicago public schools, teaching middle school math too. Yeah, loved it. Loved teaching. Still feel like I'm teaching, just in a different sense
Yeah.
today. But um, yeah, so from teaching went into coaching, and then been doing that since.
That's really cool. And so then how did the transition, or I guess, how did you end up leaving RIC and then how did the whole thought about starting your own nonprofit with triathlons work? And were you already doing triathlons during this time, or when did triathlons become a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So I started triathlon, I think, on my own, and I think it was like 2003, 2004. To be honest, I'm not sure. I started getting into running. I think I didn't have any friends that did triathlon. I'm not actually sure why I decided to sign up for a race. I think it was just something different. So used to doing team sports growing up that I think just doing a personalized, like, or an individual sport was pretty interesting. So yeah, I was doing that on my own for quite a few years. And then yeah, when I was with the parks, Chicago Park District, um, I had met Carrie Sirota, who was working with Great Lakes Adaptive Sports, as well as Melissa Stockwell, who's the Paralympian in the sport of swimming and triathlon. Um, and they were both triathletes, and we were already coaching other adaptive sports. And because we had an interest in triathlon, uh, and it was kind of a new sport coming on the scene in adaptive sports, we thought we'd kind of join forces and create our like a partnership in offering paratriathlon programming. So yeah, so it just started out small, just a partnership between the two organizations. It wasn't Dare to Try right off the bat, but yeah, we kind of got resources together to you know put together like an inventory of program equipment, adaptive equipment that we could bike with, racing chairs that people could run with, and yeah, and from there it kind of took off, and people were really interested in it. We liked it because you could get into triathlon as an individual. It wasn't necessarily like a team sport like wheelchair basketball where you need 9 other people to play the game. You could kind of do this on your own, or you could do this with family members. You could do the training and then participate in a community race. So yeah, so it just sort of built from that partnership, and then got to the point where we started thinking about just kind of forming our own entity, our own nonprofit, especially to go after funding grants, to build a program to be bigger than it was. So yeah, so in 2010 we officially became a 501c3, and then I stayed on with the park district for a while until we got established. So that was a few years after that, and then jumped over to working with Dare to Try full time.
That's cool. And so what kind of stuff does this program provide for people? I mean, obviously I know, but for people listening, like if they hear you talk about that and then go like, oh, well, that's cool. But like, what does that really mean? Like, are we, what are we doing? Like, what kind of stuff would you be having people come and do?
Yeah. So we offer weekly programming, everything from swimming to functional strength sessions. When we are in Chicago, so it's a little difficult to bike outside during the winter months. But when the weather breaks, we're outside cycling and running. We offer weekly practices for that. We have a lot of adaptive equipment. I know that's adaptive equipment, for those that don't know, is really expensive. A hand cycle, or a racing wheelchair, or a tandem bike, they're thousands of dollars. So it's right off the bat, it could be a barrier to get people out there and being active. So we have an inventory of adaptive equipment. So if people want to come out and use our equipment, we often lend equipment to people that want to use it on a more regular basis. So yeah, that's what we do during the week. And then we also offer like large events. We have camps all throughout the summer, injured military camp, a couple camps for those that are just getting into the sport of triathlon, but want like a good weekend experience. And we get a lot of people from outside of the Chicagoland area, kind of all across the country, that come in for that. And then camps for those that are a little bit more experienced and are looking to eventually compete maybe at the national, international level. So and then we do a lot of like outreach events just here in the Chicagoland area, working with local hospitals, or rehab facilities, those for individuals that are maybe newly injured, that are looking for just opportunities to get back out there and move, or to find a social group to be a part of. So everything from youth to adult in those outreach events as well.
Sweet. Thank you. That was a good rundown.
Yeah.
And then, so I was just realizing while you were talking about that, so that you became a 501c3 in 2010. So that means when you did these 2 Ironmans back to back, you were like in that interim phase of becoming a 501c3 before you officially started. And what was that? I haven't done an Ironman yet. And what was that like? What kind of training did you have to do? I mean, because you're coming from a hockey background for the most part, so, and that's totally different. Like, hockey's explosive, quick, fast, take a break. Ironman's not.
Yeah, it was tough, and I think that's why I was like drawn to it, because it was way outside of my comfort zone. I think you nailed it right on the head. Like, I'm a very, like, I have pretty good fast twitch muscles, but my slow twitch, like the long, like, tempo endurance sort of stuff is my Achilles heel. Like, I I very much struggle through that. Yeah, Ironman training was a whole nother that was a whole nother beast. It's I mean, for those that are unfamiliar with it, it's a it's a race that lasts a good part of the day, and you're pretty much training. It could be 8 to 9 months throughout the year for this one day. Um, so it's tough. You really, I think, for me, like, you really have to learn to enjoy the process, because the training takes up so much of your time. You definitely have to kind of rearrange priorities. A lot of social engagements kind of go out the window, because your weekends are filled with long bike and runs. But but it's good. I mean, I mean, for me, it teaches, it teaches, dedication, commitment. You kind of go through all different emotions when you're training for that long, and racing, for that long during the day. So, you build that mental toughness. But yeah, I mean, a very different change, from training in the world of hockey, where you do. I feel like you go very hard for a short amount of time, and then you get, almost double, three times the amount of time to rest,
Yeah.
before you do it again. Um, uh, so it was those were a couple interesting years
What
of training.
what was the first triath or the Ironman that you did, like, and so the Great Illini Challenge, what is that, like, not associated with the Ironman name, but it's an Ironman distance? Is that what that is?
Yeah. So same distance as a Ironman. So 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then 26.2 marathon run. So yeah, so there's race directors that'll put on, like, iron distance races, but aren't Ironman branded, necessarily. So not too many of those, I don't think,
Yeah,
that take place.
I've seen
But
half,
yeah, that was the first
but
one.
never
Yeah,
like a full.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, they're expensive, I mean, I think to put on as a race director, because people are out there, could be 16, 17 hours. So trying to, close down roads, and, for cycling and running, I'm sure that could get pricey.
So yeah, how long did it take you to do your first one? Do you remember?
Yeah, the first one I think was around like 14 hours. I had, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing as far as training. I didn't have a coach. I was just riding my bike as far as training up and down the Chicago lakefront path over and over and over again. And no idea what nutrition I needed to take, and how much, like, electrolytes I needed to be taking. Um, so it was a struggle bus, that first race. I mean, it was fun. It was a good experience. You know, did quite a few laps around the cornfields in southern Illinois. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, but it was fun nonetheless.
that's cool. And then I mean, did you improve on the second one being only a year later? Did you, like, were you able to find a coach for the second one, or did you say, like, I'll figure it out?
Yeah, definitely learned my lesson from the first one, and then found a local Chicago, like, triathlon, um, uh, like, club, and they had group training, and they were specifically training for Ironman Wisconsin, but that it kind of lined up with Ironman Louisville at the time. So yeah, we did everything together as a group. I mean, we had a structured training plan, learn how to train using heart rates. Um, yeah, it took a lot of the guesswork out of it when you're working with a coach, and that things made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So I was able to shave, I think, I mean, it was maybe an hour and a half off of the first
Wow.
time. Not super fast, but I was still happy with with that result. So yeah, and that was when I was introduced to triathlon coaching, and I was like, all right, this this makes sense now. I see why people pay money to hire a coach.
Yeah. And so then I mean, I know I'm jumping forward a ton of years, but I just want to talk more about the Ironmans that you've done. 2017, you do Ironman Wisconsin, and you're obviously like super deep in the world of triathlon, and I'm sure your equipment is a lot better. How did you do, and what, like, looking back, was it like, what were some of the bigger things that you focused on in 2017 versus the first couple two?
Yeah, that's interesting that you asked that. So 2017 Ironman Wisconsin was, for me, it was just get to the finish line. I actually had attempted that race in 2015. Was well trained for that race. It was a great day, um, and felt awesome going into it. And then I ended up having three flat tires on the bike. Um,
Jeez.
and that uh, like Ironman racing, you have a certain amount of time to finish each discipline. And when I got the first flat tire, it took me almost 2 hours to finally get it fixed. There was an issue with my wheel, so and that was early on the bike. So I'm already starting kind of like 2 hours behind everyone else,
Oh no.
um, or behind the time. So yeah, I finally got it fixed, and then ended up the wheel. I ended up keep like popping tires. So ended up calling it. It just wasn't my day, and that happens. It's not fun by any means, but uh, it is what it is. It was out of my control for the most part, and yeah, it stinks. It's a lot of training, a lot of money goes into it, and then something like that happens. So um, yeah, so 2017 was just to go back and kind of finish what I started.
Yeah.
Was just to get across the finish line, and kind of, it was definitely, you know kind of, I was hanging on to it still, and it was always in the back of my mind, going back there, and yeah, so I think I did enough training. It wasn't hard, very dedicated training, but enough training to complete the race. Yeah, and I went out there, and I just kind of rolled with it. I kind of had fun. Kept my heart rate pretty low throughout the day. It was my slowest Ironman time by far, I think. But but yeah, Ironman in Wisconsin is great because you get a lot of people from Chicago that go up there, and a lot of familiar faces, especially on the run course. Um, so yeah, so just had fun with it, and it was, I mean, still an incredibly hard day, but it was a good day. It was probably one of the most, you know fun races I've had throughout my, I guess, career of triathlons.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's the main reason we all do it. I mean, if you're not having fun, like, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. Like, I mean, there's been times where, even just within training, I mean, never on a race. I haven't done as many races, and I haven't done them for that distance to really have one of those days where I just wasn't having fun during a race. But for as far as training goes, like, you have those days where you're just like, I would rather be doing anything else. Like, I'd rather be doing yard work than being on this bike right now. And I don't like doing yard work, but no. And so you starting Dare to Try and working with, um, we'll call them adaptive athletes. That's the new thing. Adaptive athletes have had some really cool experiences, and I guess the first one I can think of that I remember you talking about before was you were guiding an athlete in the Chicago World Championships that the International Triathlon Union held in, was that 2017?
That was what year was it? You're talking about the one that was here in Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in 2000. That was like right around. I think that was 2010. I think that was like right when we had officially like started.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought they had one more recently than that.
Um,
Maybe not.
yeah, I can't remember. Yeah.
But the ITU races, International Triathlon Union races, for those of you that don't know, are all sprint distances. So they are super short, super fast. It's an all-out effort, and you guided for an athlete. And what was your experience with that?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was because getting into like world championships, I mean, there's a whole process, and back then um it was a little actually it's a lot. It was a lot easier to get into those international races because the field internationally was much smaller. And so they wanted to get as many people racing and on the start line as they could from all different countries. So last minute there was a spot that opened up for USA, and we had a local athlete, Israel, who raced um, triathlon, and he had done enough races to kind of qualify for the world championships, and he kind of um, was kind of bumped up to the start list. So yeah, so I was fortunate enough because I've worked with Israel for a bit before that, to guide him through that race, and man, that was such a cool experience with world championships being held like in in my backyard here in Chicago, um, but a very humbling experience to race, um, on the world stage, with the best of the best in the world. And
Wow.
yeah, I just remember like we struggled in the swim quite a bit, and tried to hammer it on the bike, but I remember there was quite a few loops on that course, and so a lot of 180-degree turns where you'd slow down and then pick back up, and halfway through, like we're just beat. But we were getting passed by. I remember Krieg, who is a U.S. athlete, and I mean Krieg, but he's a monster. He's
Yeah,
a
Krieg
hand
Shabort.
cycle, yeah, hand cycle athlete. And I remember we came out of one turn, and it's Israel and I on a tandem bike, so we've got four legs just hammering it, and then Krieg just blows past us, on his hand cycle, and he's using his arms
Yeah.
to cycle his bike, and I was just like, all right, man, we are what are we doing here on this course? Um, but it's awesome. Like, I mean, that's so cool to see. I mean, Krieg's been racing. He's been racing longer than probably both of us combined at that
Yeah.
time, and he is just an incredibly strong athlete, um, and that's motivating. Like for me, that's I mean, yeah, it's humbling, but it's to get past, and we probably should have been passed, but it's absolutely motivating too to see someone just like kind of crush you like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a deep
Um,
respect of like, wow, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, and
Krieg was what? He
it's
went
awesome.
to the Paralympics in 2016 when he was 52. Is that right?
Yeah, 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 we were able to go down to Rio and watch him race, and yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it just shows age is just a number, right? I guess if you're training hard, and you're able to keep up with those young bloods, then you have every right to be there, competing against them. So
Yeah.
um, he's a and he's still racing too.
I know.
It's incredible.
And so you had the chance. Did you go to any Paralympics before 2016?
No, that was my first. Rio was the first experience going into any Olympic Paralympic games. Um, we had gone. We had a few athletes from Dare to Try that were down there, competing on Team USA. So we wanted to be there to support them, and it was the debut of paratriathlon at the Paralympic Games. So first year of the sport, was at the games. So to be a part of that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and actually, I don't think you talked about that. So Dare to Try also does support athletes that have gone through their program and are in triathlon trying to make it to more international events or the Paralympics. I mean, ultimately trying to make it to the Paralympics, but even then, just trying to make it to international events. Yeah,
Sure.
Dare to Try does help with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we do have an elite and development team and a junior development team, and it's almost like our own pipeline within Dare to Try. It's those that we've kind of seen that are at that competitive level where the next step is maybe competing or wanting to compete at nationals. So helping provide them with the resources to get them to that level, whether it's helping with race entry fees or training, equipment, so that they could compete at that level. And then, I mean, at best, I think just from competing, in the short time too. But like once you get to that level where you're competing nationally, you almost at that point you're almost looking for like, okay, I need to find like a personal coach to work with, and then start to train at so you can compete at the international level, and then hopefully make one of the national teams or the national team for the U.S. and eventually hopefully compete for Team USA.
Yeah. And for those listening, when he says one of the national teams, because there's different levels to the national, the paratriathlon, USA paratriathlon team, even though it's, USA national team, there's a
Mm-hmm.
B, an emerging team that's different levels for the support that you get for basically just how you're doing, and
Right.
so no, that's really cool that you guys do that because as I learned the hard way, paratriathlon is expensive. It's
Yeah.
and that's like when you were talking earlier about starting the sport, I was like, man, you couldn't have picked a more expensive sport. Like you
I
just
mean, you go from hockey, which is pretty expensive already, and then you go like, all right, I'll try triathlon. That's even more expensive than
yeah.
hockey. Yeah, I won't do one sport now. I'll do three and have to buy equipment for three sports. So
And USA High, I remember with playing on the national team, we'd have to take our hockey bags with us like everywhere we went. And I remember
yeah,
traveling with a hockey bag thinking like, oh, man, this thing's so big, you know. Now I'm pushing a racing wheelchair, a hand cycle in a bag,
yeah,
a wheel bag, my own personal bag. I'm pushing this
yeah.
thing all around,
Wetsuit bag.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I wish I just had one hockey bag again. That would be
Yeah, yeah. You're eating your words now.
yeah. But it's cool. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun and oh, and I guess here's something else I didn't even mention. Dan Tunn, for those of you listening, is my personal handler, my go-to handler. And basically what that means is when I'm racing, because I'm in a wheelchair, he helps me when I get out of the water. They have like personal carriers, people, water exit handlers is their official title. And what they do is they pick you up out of the water and they carry you over to your chair and they set you in your chair. So then that chair, from that position in my chair, I have to get to my hand cycle. And when I get to my hand cycle, Dan is there to help me in any way get into my hand cycle. And then, and he's there at the water exit to tell them, the people helping out of the water, like, hey, this is your chair or this is his chair. And so then he helps me get on my bike. I take off and then he basically just hangs out, has a Coke, just chills. And then when I get back, he is there to help me get into my race chair. And then I take off and then he meets me at the finish line. And I'm totally kidding when I say he kicks back. Like Dan is the most active handler. He'll be running up away from the transition area to tell me how I'm doing or who's behind me or what's going on. And but the way we got connected again, I guess, was when I said I wanted to get into triathlon. He was the one guy I knew that was starting something and had something going, and I didn't even realize how big Dare to Try was at the time. But then the more we got to talking, I was like, oh no, I need a handler. And so I was like, Dan, can you be my handler? And he was ever, he's been my go-to ever since. He didn't get to work with me in Tokyo because of just an issue with scheduling, because I expect him to just drop everything he wants to do or
Right.
has
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. I don't have a job or anything. Like my job is to be Josh's
Yeah.
Josh's handler.
Which I don't really pay for. Also, so it's totally selfless on Dan's part, um,
Yeah.
but with that, yeah, like we got to go to World Championships, and that was really cool. I mean, how did you feel? How did you feel that went, or like, what's your take on how that all went? Was that your first time handling at World Championships? I guess I don't know that.
Yeah. So that was my second time. I actually went to London and was Haley Dans. So she's a silver medalist um, uh, paratriathlete in Rio too, but also a former Dare to triathlete. But back then, so she's an amputee. She's an above the knee amputee, and back then, her classification um, was able to have handlers or someone to assist her during the transition. So I was able to help her, uh, hand off her prosthetic legs for the bike of the run, or help take off her wetsuit if she needed. So that was my first experience at that level at World Championships. Um, in as a handler,
Yeah.
and so that was pretty cool. She won that race,
What are you trying?
which was yeah.
Yeah,
I guess I'm yeah,
you
just
just
some
putting that out there
lucky
for me,
lucky
like,
rabbit. Yeah, just a lucky rabbit's foot or something. Um, but uh, but yeah, and then being able to go to Switzerland with you was awesome. I mean, I think what's really cool is to see the progression of the sport. I mean, when we had world champion when it was London, Chicago, and then here, like or Switzerland, like just being able to see how many more people are competing, and how the competition has gotten. I mean, the racing has just gotten so much faster, in all the categories. Um, and the process, I mean, you know it best. I mean, as an athlete, just to try to get into these races is not easy. As far as being selected and having enough world ranking points to get on a starting list, it's become a lot more competitive than it was in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience from a handler position. It's especially being like, it's nerve wracking, like, when you're racing and I'm kind of waiting for you to come in, off the bike, or, at the finish line. But it's also cool to kind of be there and observe all the other racers that are coming and going too. And yeah, it was an awesome experience.
cool. Yeah, no, I thought that was a really cool. I mean, the water was so nice. Everything was so
Yeah.
nice. It was just beautiful. And I wish I would have done a little better, obviously. But first year in the sport, what are you going to do? I mean, I was just happy to
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. You did all right.
you, you're sitting there watching it. It was nerve wracking because you were sitting there watching everybody else come in before me. Like, dude, did he get lost? What's he doing? Isn't it a closed course?
Yeah. He stopped at that Korean restaurant for some more food or
Yeah,
something?
right.
Like,
Go back to that coffee shop. No, that
yeah.
was
Yeah.
no, that was a fun race. I definitely learned a lot. And so, what's another cool experience that you can think of? I guess from your time being with Dare to Try.
Yeah, great question. Let's see. I mean, I think our camps. I mentioned we offer quite a few different camps, but we do hold a kids camp here in Chicago, and it takes place on the south side of Chicago on the lakefront, and we get a lot of kids from like lower socioeconomic neighborhoods to come out, kids that have physical disabilities or visual impairments, and it's it's such a cool experience because we usually recruit other kids or youth triathletes to come and volunteer at that event, as well. So being able to see, you know, kids working with kids, is such an awesome experience. I mean, they're kids, so it's 2 days of just having fun. It's not, really hard like training sessions. It's just getting them moving in the water on the bike and doing some running. And then we put on a little race too. But um, that's always like one of my favorite events that we have during the year, especially to see those kids that um, might not have the opportunity to 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 get out to um, our weekly program on a regular basis. That live in those areas that in Chicago that are a little bit more rough, just to kind of get them kind of exposed to the sport, to a whole other group of people, and it's there's a lot of connections and friendships that are made over those 2 days. So that's always a great experience that I look forward to each year.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I remember working with kids at the sled hockey development camp, and kind of being in that mentor role as a player coach, or I wasn't playing at the camp, but I was a national team player, and then I was coaching,
Hmm.
and that's always been my favorite. Was working with the kids and seeing them just having fun, maybe having light bulbs come on when they're doing something and learning, and whether it's hockey related or not, just seeing them growing was always really cool. I'm sure you get the same kind of experiences.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess before we go any further, I didn't bring Dan on for just to pitch Dare to Try. I mean, so I know everyone's going to be listening to the show and think like, all right, he's got all these Paralympians and all these people up on the internet,
Yeah, who's this Dan guy? He doesn't have any gold
who's,
medals
who's
or
Dan
anything.
Ton? And then they're going to be like, oh, because Josh is working with Dare to Try and
Right,
Dan's,
yeah, yeah.
but no, honestly, the reason I brought Dan on was because he even though he's not at the Paralympic or Olympic level, he's still pushing himself to be the best person that he can be, and I see that all the time through a million different ways. And one of the ways I saw it initially after we had kind of become friends on social media and whatnot was just that you started putting out these things to other people and talking about kind of like the struggle that you were having mentally with like different I mean, just mental health style. I guess that's what it's categorized now, mental health
Yeah.
style struggles. And that was one thing that I don't know a lot of people. I mean, I know a lot of people that claim different things, and I have no basis to judge anything that they say. But you're kind of the only person that I feel like I could come to and be, because you were offering up the help for anyone that had any help. And I forgot you had some like hashtag, or not even a hashtag. I don't remember what it was, but it was basically like, you
Might
would
have been
help.
like,
I don't
yeah,
remember.
like it's okay not to be okay. Is
Yeah,
that
that was
was
yeah, that
was
was
it?
it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so how did that all come
Um,
about?
yeah. So yeah, just kind of give you a little backstory. I think I don't know. It might have been in college is when I really started like experiencing just high level anxiety. I didn't really know. Um, I just felt like it was just anxiety, whether it was the same feeling you get like before you give like like a speech or before a big event. That's kind of what it felt like. But then it started to grow and just be more more consistent. Um, and yeah, and that was when I first really noticed like having these bouts of like anxiety, which later turned into having some like panic attacks and things like that. But yeah, a lot of it stemmed from I'm very much a perfectionist in many ways, and um, just a lot of like internal pressures that I put on myself. Um, always trying to improve or just setting the bar really high. Um, and also not giving myself enough time, I think, to to do things for myself. I love helping others and giving and teaching and giving up my time to um, to help others in all different ways and you can only do that for so long before um, your cup is empty, and then
Yeah.
you're running on nothing. So yeah, so like over the years, I think after college, it got pretty bad. I mean, it turned into bouts of depression. I was public about it on social media, but from depression it turned into there's a couple suicide attempts, and that was rough. Luckily that I came out alive,
Alive.
I
Yeah.
guess. uh, but yeah, it was it I think for me in the beginning, it was just like, okay, I need to go get some help, um, and then it'll get fixed, and I won't have to like worry about it anymore. Um, and then I'd go get help, and things would be okay, and then I'd let it go, and the same cycle would repeat itself. And it wasn't until like a few years ago, and then I realized like, all right, this is going to be like a lifelong thing. Like, it's not going away. And just having like and understanding like it's okay. Like this is I'm because there's such a stigma that's attached to mental illness where you don't really want to talk about it, or if you do talk about it, are people gonna look at you differently or treat you differently? Um, so a lot of times like I was you know not wanting to to talk about it,
Yeah.
wanting to kind of figure it out on my own, and yeah, and it came to the point where it's like I can't do that anymore because it's not helping. So yeah, it took a lot of years and a lot of um, digging myself out of many many deep holes. I think to finally get to a place where um, kind of accepting that okay, this is I have this mental illness, like I have anxiety at times. There might be moments of feeling depressed, but like that's okay. Like I could still be a functioning adult when you go through those moments. Like it doesn't have to completely like debilitate you. Even though there are times when it can get pretty bad. But but yeah, just accepting it and knowing that it's okay, and I'm not the only one that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
But it took a while, a lot of you know uh, a lot of different doctors, you know, trying different medications, and I think I was just going through the motions for many years, and I think that's why I wasn't sort of improving or having the necessary tools to get me through certain situations. But I think yeah, definitely the last year or 2 years of working with the right doctors, of being open, communicating, um, and just being okay with it has definitely helped. And just accepting that it's going to be it's going to be a lifelong process, but just keep moving forward.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, I don't know, it just kept popping into my head. I kept thinking of a battery, or like your phone battery, right? So like you're working on your phone. That phone is working all day for you, and it's slowly draining and draining. And then when you were like it's okay to not be okay, like you're going to have times where you're down. Like I thought about like, and this is totally, it's just kind of funny even saying it. I'm like, why am I saying this? But it's like the phone is on, it's like hitting 20%, and you're like, okay, I should probably start looking for a charger, probably start starting, and then it hits 10%, and you're like, crap, I need to find a charger, and then it's, so what I was hearing when you were saying that, and what I was thinking was like, it's almost like you need to know, like once you start to get down to that 20%, like what you
Yeah,
need to do, like what that outlet that you would be, the outlet that the phone plug represents, whatever, is what you would need to find to be able to kind of recharge your own battery so that you can continue to give and help other people like you enjoy doing.
right. Yeah. I mean, I see it too, like in sport. I mean, we hear it all the time. I mean, you can only, you know, the intensity of training, like you can only, you need to be recovered, right? And I think a lot of times we think we could train. All right, I'm gonna skip a day of recovery. I'm gonna train a little bit harder. I don't want to miss out on things, but like over time, like you know, you're not gonna have any gains, performance gains. Like you need to take that time off to recover, to to come back and progress. And I think you absolutely need to do that, mentally too. I mean, it's um, I think the world that we live in now is there's a lot of things coming at us. It's a lot of information, whether it's TV, social media, just work, things in your personal life, and like for me, like if I don't take those times to recharge, and that's not just it could be just having a quiet time with myself, and or taking a nap when I need it, or going to take a like some sort of fitness class, just to move, to recharge in that sense. Like making that a priority is important these days, and not feeling guilty about it, because I think before, when I would try doing that, like, all right, it's selfish, you're taking a class when you could be doing doing more for work, you could be doing more for others. And but I think over time, like I've learned, like there needs to be a balance, in order to continue to do the things that I love for others, and also for myself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know I know I was always the old man on the hockey trips, like, and not in the sense that I was the old man. I mean, Rico Roman will always have that title. That's his, you know. But like
Oh, Rico.
I know, but I was always the old man in the sense that they'd be like, "Hey, like, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go do that? Like, hey, we're all doing this." And I just it like it's almost like I knew, like, I just need my time to chill and not do that, because the energy on that team is so high. Like those guys are so the
Yeah.
level of their energy is so high that I'm like, no, like I can't keep up with that, guys. Like I just can't. And so they always kind of made fun of me for it, but they respected me at the same time for being able to say, and not having that fear of missing out, and being able to
Right.
say, like, no, guys, I don't care. Like, you can go. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to sit here and think about how much fun you guys are having, because I know I need this time. And so, no,
Yeah.
I totally hear what you're saying and agree. And we actually did something, you did something with the class when I was at the Train to Race camp with Dare to Try. And that's not a plug. This is a story. Uh, where you ran us through breathing, and you had got that from XPT, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I took a certification course in XPT, which is extreme performance training, and yeah, they do a lot of like breath work within that training, and how that can kind of help you in all different situations, and just your personal life, as well as whether in like athletic performance, and things like that. So like even before that, I was introduced to just breath work, to with some of the doctors that I work with. To I think I was introduced to it first when I was like, I would have panic attacks in the morning. My anxiety would be so high, like just thinking about things, just being in my head so much, that it would trigger a panic attack, and um, I would almost start like hyperventilating. And I had to learn how to really like slow down my breathing, and just become like just more kind of aware of like actually the breathing in and breathing out, just to kind of uh, slow my thoughts down. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then when I was introduced to XBT, I was like, all right, like I have some sort of foundation in this already, but um, it'd be pretty cool to learn just different techniques and protocols to like to pass along to people. Because I know, like, in sport, whether it's it doesn't have to be a panic attack necessarily. We all experience different types of anxiety, and I know before like a race, or I remember before hockey games, the level of anxiety is a little bit higher, because your body's prepping you um, for competition. And so to kind of stay in the moment, and to kind of like channel that energy through breath work is is pretty cool. So yeah, so I'm hoping to kind of introduce that to to more individuals at our camps and um, things like that.
Yeah, and it really works. Like you were having us do this box drill. I think that's what it's called, where you breathe in for like a 10 count, and then you hold it, and then you breathe out for a 10 count, and then you hold it and then breathe in, and you do that. It's like,
Yep.
you're going in a box, you're going around each side of the box. And I've actually used that when working with my kids, because like, and I know it's not whatever, like there's times where my kids they'll just be going and going and going and going, and like in my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm I'm trying to make your food here, stop yelling that you're hungry at me, like I get it. And then once I make them the food and I get it all set, and I'll be sitting there, and I can still feel that I'm like kind of tense. And because like for whatever reason, I just when I play sports, or when I get like, I just compartmentalize so well that I don't really get phased by my like jitters or whatever. So I don't really
Hmm.
think about breathing before I do something. Like I just bury it nice and deep so I don't feel it. uh, because I think it's just because I know I'm like, all right, that's just my body doing its thing. Like whatever, just I'm just gonna do what I need to do, and so I don't worry about it. But like at home in my kitchen, where I'm like, no, this is my space where I'm supposed to be relaxed and like hang out with my family, and then they start getting in my head. I found that really helps, and so for anybody listening to this that has had times where you're like, I know I'm super hyped up and stressed out and like about to snap on the next person that says something to me, think about just breathing, and maybe look into doing some breath work, because it really, after after doing it a couple times, I was like, all right, I'm cool, I'm back. And
Yeah.
so thank you for that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that XPT, you guys were doing crazy stuff. Like it's not just breathing; it's like breathing underwater, holding a brick, and the water is frozen, or something like that, right?
Yeah. There. Yeah. It's pretty intense. Like um yeah, for those that don't know about it, it was developed by Laird Hamilton, who's like this extreme big wave surfer, and his wife Gabrielle Reese, who's a former pro beach volleyball player. But they're both like intense athletes. But it's cool because they also use this breath work to kind of you know balance that those intense activities that they do too. So yeah, so they do some interesting stuff, especially like using dumbbells and weights in the water, and um, yeah, a lot of ice baths and sauna work too. So good stuff though.
That's cool. And so then when I don't remember, when did you start working with Lulu? Because I just felt like we were hanging out, we knew, we've known each other or whatever, and the next thing I know, you're on like, you know, you're on ads, and in the Chicago Marathon, I'm rolling through, and I look over at the Lulu booth, and there's a big Dan Tun staring down
Oh
at
my
me.
gosh. Yeah.
So how did you get involved with them?
Yeah. So actually, it was one of our a friend and a former Dare to Try athlete was working with Lululemon at one of their stores, and this was I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah, because this is my third year as an ambassador. So um, it was a little over 3 years ago. She had invited me, and I really had no I thought Lululemon was just a company that had a bunch of yoga apparel for women. I didn't even know that they had clothing for men. And so yeah, she had introduced me to the group there at her store, and they were working on some um, like a run campaign around the Chicago Marathon. So yeah, so did some community activities with them, and got to understand their culture and their community a little bit better, um, and it was awesome. Like they're not to plug them, but like their apparel is great. And but uh, what really interested me was their community involvement and just getting people together and moving and sweating in different ways, not just run, but yeah, all different types of activities. So yeah, so just that's where it kind of kicked off. It was very kind of informal, and then that kind of rolled um, into the ambassador program. So I mean, it wasn't like a formal application. A lot of people ask like, how do you become an ambassador? And it's not, they don't have a formal like application to fill out and interview and things like that. But I think it's building the relationship, kind of like I did, and them getting to know me and me getting to know them, and then yeah, figuring out ways that we can support each other. So it's been great. It's been I know you've come here to do some stuff with them and as well, and um, yeah, just a lot of community stuff going on here in Chicago through Lululemon.
And they have, is Mary Kate the first ambassador in a chair or no?
As far as like in Chicago, yes, yeah. So she's the first, I guess, adaptive athlete.
Adaptive athlete, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, here, and I know actually Patrick Pressgrove, who's a double amputee out in Texas.
Oh,
He's
Houston,
an
yeah.
ambassador. Yeah, he's an ambassador with them too. So it's awesome. Like, I mean, that's another thing that I really respect about the company is they're um, they're inclusive. They want people of all abilities, like um, to be coming together within the community to do stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see, and to have Mary Kate, who's a friend, on the ambassador team as well.
Yeah, we'll actually be, I'll have her on this show. I think I'll be talking to her soon. I don't remember when exactly, but she'll be on here and she's got a really cool story too. So that'll be something really, really cool. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on that as well. But yeah, just
Yeah,
the stuff that I've seen her doing with them. Because I remember when I was down in San Antonio, I was like kind of looking at Lulu stuff because my wife was really into it. And I was kind of talking to one of the stores about an ambassador, but I was like, I don't do any of this. Like, I play sled hockey, and I don't know how that falls into all of it. And it didn't really happen. And so I was like, whatever. It's not a big deal. Like people, you know, just because I'm in a chair doesn't mean I can do everything. It's not like it's a big deal. And so, but then when I saw that Mary Kate was doing it, and then when she was doing like the runs and the other stuff, and yeah, that bridge run we did when I was there
yeah,
for the Chicago Marathon, which is insane. It was so cold and windy, but uh, yeah, that was my first experience being like in the mix with the Lululemon like group like that, and I was like, this is really cool. So, what's the coolest thing you've done as an ambassador so far?
oh wow. So I've gone to so Lululemon puts on a half marathon in Vancouver. Their headquarters are based in Vancouver, so they put on a half marathon, which is at the end of the summer, called Seawees, and awesome race. You run through Vancouver, and then the like the last half of the race, you're running around the seawall, which is like the most gorgeous place to run. Um, Probably the coolest half marathon I've ever done. But yeah, the last 2 years I was able to be, they call them pace beavers. So basically pacers um, for groups out there. So that, I mean, that's pretty awesome. I mean, they treat the pacers really well. You kind of get the VIP experience. Um, but then yeah, but then you're bringing a bunch of runners, that have certain time goals, you know, through the race, and yeah, kind of along that journey with them to hit those goals. So yeah, fortunate enough to do that the last 2 years. This this past year was I'm a co-captain of all the Pace Beavers, so we were able to kind of kind of train the new pacers and kind of share our experience with them and what to expect. And then yeah, worked with another guy to just keep the energy pretty high and keep everyone hyped and excited. And it was awesome. And we all, yeah, at the end of the race this year, we went back out on the course, and all the pacers brought in the last runner. So we all kind of paced that final runner into the finish line, which is pretty awesome. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah, a lot of cool experiences, but yeah, those experiences at Seawees have really stood out.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that's cool being able to just help a group of people accomplish something that maybe they've never done, and just get to see that happen. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
So, big question, other than ultra marathons and ultra running, what's in the future for Dan Tunn?
Oh, oh man, that's a great question.
Oh, wait, hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up. Before you answer that, I did have a question from somebody through the
Uh-oh.
social media.
Okay.
Dun dun dun. And it was it, and some of them I got a couple of them, and some of them were just funny, and I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna bring
Yeah,
that up.
goofy.
Bunch of goofballs. Uh, but this one struck me because it was, is it true he has gone keto? And I was like, okay, my brother was visiting over the weekend, and he was talking about keto. And from what I understand, I don't really know much about it, but from what I understand, it's like pretty much no carbs. And
Yeah.
I've seen your Instagram feed where it's like all carbs all day. you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely like trying the complete opposite of what I've been doing, which is not eating very healthy and a lot of fast food, which is not good. Tried like this past weekend. Kind of I think I just wanted to try. I wanted to try fasting. I've known some people that have done like intermittent fasting, and I've never done it before, and just did a little research on the benefits of doing like a 3 day like water and coffee too, but basically a water only fast, so no food for 3 days, and just to kind of detox. I mean, I go through the holidays, and I mean, you said it. I don't eat very well, but then you go through the holidays, and you're just eating more and stuff. And I was just even go before that. I was just feeling like really foggy, like mentally and just lethargic. And I was like, I really need, not huge into resolutions and the start of the new year, but I'm like, I need to make a change. If I want to keep doing the things that I enjoy doing, like, I've gotten away with it so far with eating pretty bad and doing the things that I enjoy doing, but I don't think that's a great plan, long haul. So,
Yeah.
so did the fast this weekend. That was tough. It was really tough actually. But I think it was a good way for me to just kind of flush the system. And then I've been looking into the keto diet, just kind of experimenting with it. I may not go full keto, but a lot of the foods that are allowed on, like, I guess, the keto diet are foods that I enjoy eating. So so I see it as like a little bit of a template as to how I kind of want to move forward in a healthier way. I think if you want to go full keto, like, it's tough. I mean, it's very little carbs. Like, there's certain percentage of carbs you can have throughout the day, or else you basically kick your body out of keto, or out of that keto system. So I don't know if that's sustainable for me, but but I think being keto like might work. So
Yeah.
I mean, I like cheese. I like meats.
Bacon.
Bacon's good. Pork rinds, all that stuff. But we'll see. We'll have to do another podcast to check in, because it might be back to like the Wendy's and
Donuts.
like donuts, all that pizza.
No, I mean, I got that question, and I was like, well, I got to ask that. And I guess the other reason I wanted to bring it up was because, and I don't endorse like any kind of diets like this or anything like that. I mean, I think it's up to the individual. So if you're listening to this and thinking like, oh, well, I need to try keto, like, no, I'm not, like, we're not saying that at all. We've both played with the different things, and I know what I need to eat, and Dan's trying something new. But the other reason I bring that up is
Dan doesn't know what he needs.
Yeah, Dan's been told what he shouldn't eat, was eating it, and now wants to try something new that, instead of listening to what we've been telling him to eat. But anyway,
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to bring it up because I feel like there's so many, like, everybody that hears about these different diets and stuff goes instantly into oh, that's horrible. I would never do that. And, I think it's cool that you're like, I'm just going to try it because, I mean, what's the harm? Like, you just decide, I don't want to do this anymore and go back to eating the way you were eating before. So I figured it would be cool to bring it up and kind of, I guess, just say, like, it's cool to try new things. It's not a big deal. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like you have to go through to the point where you're making yourself sick, or always consult with your doctor because everybody has different things going on. So
Right.
if you go to your doctor and say, hey, I'm interested in keto, and they go, no way, then that means probably shouldn't do it.
Probably shouldn't be doing it. Yeah.
Right. But I just thought and I
Yeah.
was honestly
Good
just
question.
super surprised that was the case because your feed was carbs for like the last 6 months. So
Yeah. Yeah. Love carbs.
okay, now we're back. Future plans for Danton.
Yeah, future plans. That's a great question. I mean, I want to travel more. I mean, I felt like I traveled a lot last year. A lot of it was work, but yeah, I think we talked a little bit earlier about doing things for yourself and not feeling guilty about it. And I think like taking a trip or traveling. I kind of put that pretty low on my priority list because that I think that I view that as being a little selfish or taking time away from doing other things that I should be doing. So I'd love to travel a little bit more. I mean, I've only been overseas a few times. I mean, this trip to Switzerland trip was awesome. One of my favorite trips, and doing more things like that. And those could be like spontaneous trips too. Like, I mean, I don't have any specific places that I want to go to. I just kind of want to see different things. And, yeah, maybe just being a little bit more spontaneous with, even like just weekend trips or, around the Midwest or something like that. So yeah, so making travel a little bit more of a priority probably the next couple of years.
That's good because I know a guy that gets told he's going to do a race only 30 days before the race, and he needs a handler, and so there's definitely some spontaneous actions that happen in this guy's life that it always involves travel. I could tell you that because there's like 2 races in the United States. So
yeah,
cool. Job security.
For those that don't know, Josh is talking about himself. Okay, this is how the world of international triathlon competition works. So, yeah.
I should explain that.
To plan.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, the way the International Triathlon Union has set the rules is that I apply for a race at least 30 days, at least like 40 days before the race. And they tell me 30 days before the race whether or not I'm on the start. They don't even tell you. They just put you on the start list and put it up on the website, and it's your job to go and look, which you're always interested in it, so you do it. But that's anywhere in the world. So, like, I live in Oregon, and they publish a list 30 days before that, you can race in Switzerland, or, you can race in Tokyo. And I'm like slamming Google, like, flights to Tokyo, and so that's just the way that works. I don't really know why. That's just the way it has worked. So that's why I said that. But
yeah,
cool.
A lot of spontaneous trips.
Yeah, and I totally agree. You should take more trips, some spontaneous trips, and I have that. I have that avenue for you. But is there anything else that you would like to add or touch on or say, from yourself to anybody that's listening about anything?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I think this is awesome. This podcast is great. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing all the different individuals that you've got coming on your show. So, feel honored to be here to kind of share a little bit about my, life and experiences. And, I know we touched a little bit about, on mental health too, but, yeah, I mean, I think I just want to plug that a little bit too, for those that are listening that might be kind of struggling or dealing with some things is to reach out, to communicate with someone that you trust, rather than like, keep it in and try to try to figure it out all yourself. So, yeah, take my word from it. It works a lot easier when you're talking to others than keeping it inside. And yeah, that's what I'm going to kind of leave you with.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for taking the time to be here. And to all of you that took the time to listen today, we thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the Josh Sweeney podcast so you don't have to worry about missing the next one. Until next time.